Welcome to r/malicious compliance, where we share stories of people conforming to the letter but not the spirit of a request. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. The first story. My father asks me to bring him things. I bring him not what he needs. The second story. They refused to pay me for the work I did, so I'm suing for fraud. The third story. Boss wants to shift the blame onto me because our client is making a claim. On to the first story. My dad makes up words for things, so I get exactly what he tells me to. My dad is simple to say the least. I often work with him on projects around the house. Sometimes when we shop, I split with him while my mom and sister go their separate way. He has a horrible habit of telling me to grab something. Let's say he says, "Get me that bag," and loosely gestures to a general area. When I ask him what he wants me to grab, he gets upset and tells me not to smart-mouth him. Then when I inevitably grab every bag in the area he pointed to, he goes over and grabs a box. Not a huge difference, but enough to be a problem. Same with working on cars. He tells me to hand him a wrench, and after I've handed him every wrench in the toolbox, he'll get mad and grab the screwdriver. Or he'll just start saying something and trail off without finishing. And whenever I try and clarify what he was saying, he'll get mad at me for backtalking. Yes, he still expected me to understand what he's saying. And no, it's not due to a medical issue. Also, if he wants me to go grab something from a specific area, he'll gesture loosely and say it's over there, and never clarify where he wants me to look for it. Lastly, he'll not say my name, so if there's more than one person, it gets confusing. He, of course, gets upset about me not understanding that either. I tried to have a conversation with him about it, but he just said, "Use your own effing judgment." So fine, I'm tired of asking for clarification and him getting upset. So recently when he asks me to grab him something, I'll get exactly what he asks me to get him, even if I know exactly what he's talking about. If he doesn't use my name, I just don't do it, and if he gestures vaguely at an area, I'll just walk over to it and stand still. It came to a head last night when he told me to grab him a towel rather than a blanket, and I asked him what type of towel he wanted. He rolled his eyes and said, "Okay, smart A, just get me a regular towel." So I went to the kitchen and got him a hand towel. He got upset and yelled, "What the F am I gonna use a towel for? I need a GD blanket." I looked him dead in his eyes and said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I was just using my own effing judgment like you told me, father." He got quiet and called me a dense idiot. But I think that from now on, he's gonna put effort into what he says. Because this morning, instead of telling me to grab him a ladle for his cereal, he asked for a spoon. I'm not a hopeful person, but I think I won. Small success, guys. Small success. Edit. I promise he has got no medical issues that are causing him to have a speech impediment. We've had him tested and treated for lots of things. But I can safely assure you it's nothing aside from him just not giving an SH about what comes out of his mouth. I think your father likes to make you angry. I hope he understands his problem and is working on it soon. I'm sorry that you feel his anger more than anyone else. If I were you, I would look him straight in the eye, throw in the towel and say, "You told me to get you a regular towel, not a blanket. What you can do now is keep it up." If he gets mad at you for asking clarifying questions and not being specific, he'll have to eat his cereal literally with a soup ladle. Ha, I would watch that. The next story is, want me to work for my interview? Will do. Background. I mostly work in a niche area of law called discovery. Basically, when someone starts a legal proceeding, each party gets to ask other parties for certain documents relevant to the case. Sometimes parties refuse to produce certain documents because of reasons like attorney-client privilege. I argue why my client's documents are properly withheld, or the other side's documents are improperly withheld. One day I see a job board post from a local law firm looking for a research and writing position with required experience in discovery disputes. This raises a red flag for two reasons. First, local law firms normally do not need to hire full-time R&W people because 95% of that firm's cases are very similar. i.e., a personal injury firm normally only handles personal injury cases, so keeping a full-time researcher is not worthwhile when all your cases are basically the same. When these local firms need something researched, they either just do it themselves or pay someone else for a few hours of work. Second, this local firm hired a friend of mine by telling him start here, work hard, and move up to senior associate in a few years, before promptly letting them go after a few busy months. I go ahead and send my resume over and get scheduled for an interview pretty quickly. During the interview, I gave them a fairly high salary ask, which they agreed to almost instantly. Then the partner hits me with the following. Partner, we ask all candidates to provide a writing sample before the final interview. Me, sure thing. I thought I attached one to the application, but let me grab my phone and double check. P, oh, not that writing sample. That's too generic for evaluation. Here's a legal question that we want you to research. Me, I see. More than happy to do that at an hourly rate. P, it should be fairly quick work. No other candidate has asked us for writing sample compensation, and this makes it seem like you won't be a team player. If you aren't interested in the position, just tell us. M, let me think about it. So I go home and search a couple of local court dockets, and wouldn't you know it, this firm is involved in a case with a hearing set on exactly the discovery question they want me to produce a free writing sample on. I send an email back saying sure thing, I'll make the writing sample, as long as it guarantees consideration for the R&W position. They say yes. I write a fantastic memo and send it in. A few weeks go by and I email asking for an update on the final interview. No response. Then I check that court docket and wouldn't you know it, they straight up copy and pasted parts of my memo in the response. I send a demand letter for payment plus fees. No response. I file a lawsuit for fraud. Oh baby, then I got a response. A frothy, salty response. Frothalty. I got called some names. They went on and on about how I was going to lose, and after I lost, how they were going to countersue me. I said, sounds good. Can't wait to lose. I guess you did hire a full-time R&W attorney. I mean, it would be like Babytown Frolics easy to win if you never hired for that position. Actually, it would be even easier if you never even had a final interview for the spot. I'm sure you aren't that dumb, though. Got the check 30 days later. I love your story. I like the fact that you immediately understood the situation you were in, and went in anyway knowing how to cover yourself. I hope you not only secured your income, but also protected others from exploitation. I heard from a friend that the practice of conducting job interviews under the guise of getting free work from someone is quite common in many technical fields. Glad you were able to get back at them. You showed them that you can't just be used and should be paid for every job you do. A friend of mine once asked to provide a coding sample that would take him at least 8 hours. At that point, he was unable to ask the company any questions about work-life balance or compensation. He asked for a very brief conversation with one of the hiring managers to see if the position was worth his time. It was declined, so he refused to continue with the interview process, and I think he did the right thing, because his time is also worth money, and no one wants to do a job for nothing, no pay. The last story is, you want me to lie to prevent the guy who fell off his bike due to ice to get his claim? No. So I currently work in a petrol station. I came full circle when I left that job to try for something else, and other reasons, but in the end did not work out and landed a job at another petrol station. This story is about the previous one I worked at, which is part of a supermarket during the winter. I arrive at work 5:45 a.m., just as I walk across the forecourt, and next thing I'm like Bambi while I try not to fall on my A. Whilst doing this alongside of our duty manager, I said to him, hey, can you request the gritters, who we just passed gridding the main store car park, to maybe give us some love over here too? This could be dangerous for cars coming and going, but in the meantime I'll just warn cars to drive slow and careful until the gritters come around. He says that's a good call, and he'll do that. Well, of course he didn't, so here's what happened next. After a good hour of standing outside in the cold warning cars to drive slow and careful, I had to come back inside from the cold, plus to help my coworker hold the fort, while she went to the bathroom. While it was quiet, I got on my phone to the duty manager to ask him why he has not sent gritters, but of course no one answers the phone. Then I noticed a customer making his way in while shouting, "Are you okay, mate?" I look out the window and I see a man mounted on his motorcycle, fueling up, giving a thumbs up, and I thought, ah man, here we go. I asked the customer what happened, and he tells me how he rode his bike over the ice and came off his bike. Of course, this happened so fast and was distracted calling the manager that I didn't see the fall, but I thought CCTV caught this. So the guy who came off his bike enters, and there I am apologizing profusely. Me, I just heard you came off your bike. Are you okay? Biker, just scrape my knee a little and my elbow really hurts, but I'll be fine. Me, are you sure? Look, just come into the back with me. I'll get first aid to check you over and coffee's on me. Biker, hey, relax. I'm not gonna make a claim. All is fine. Me, okay, just I'm really sorry this has happened to you, and it's part of my job to make sure okay. Biker, I'm okay, and don't worry about the coffee. So the biker leaves, but bear in mind he wasn't really wearing biker protection gear. In the end, we found bags of salt in some storage, and we took it upon ourselves to grit the forecourt ourselves, considering this was not our job to do so. A week later, my boss calls me on my day off to tell me there's a statement form I need to fill out when I come into work next. I straight up ask, this is about the guy who came off his bike, isn't it? She says, yeah, he's making a claim. I rolled my eyes and laughed and told my boss how the guy told me he wasn't going to claim, but of course I didn't blame him. I head into work the next day and write a full statement of what happened. What I saw? Well, I didn't see him fall, but footage showed he did indeed fall, and also wrote the exact conversation we had, and left it at that and just got on with the day. I come home and later that night my boss calls me to ask me a very important question regarding if this guy will get his claim or not. And the question was, the morning the guy fell off his bike, did you notice there was ice before he arrived? I straight up said yes, I noticed there was ice. I noticed it when I walked over it and almost slipped and fell myself. There was a pause, then I was asked, are you sure? You need to answer this honestly. And I said of course I'm sure and I am being honest. Did coworker's name lie and say no? And if I'm honest here, I don't really care if the biker gets his claim or not. I requested a gritter that morning and no one turned up. I even called DM to not ask but tell him we needed a gritter. And I know that what happened isn't personally my fault, as I tried as far as my duties are to prevent accidents such as this happening. The boss cuts me off and says, your answer here is very important here, emphasizing the words your answer and important. You're saying you did notice ice? Then I said, I'm not going to lie to possibly prevent a guy to win some I hurt myself money. That's my answer and I'm sticking with it. Good night. Hangs up. Don't know if that guy got his claim or not, but all this would have been prevented if someone did their job right. Edit. My guess was my boss wanted me to say I didn't notice any ice, so they couldn't say that we were too lazy to deal with the health and safety hazard thing. But I covered my A and said I did notice it, and reported it and requested for it to get sorted, but no one showed. But thankfully in some rusty storage room out back we found some bags of grit salt that had been there for God knows how long. We stacked a trolley, put on high visual jackets and held on for dear life of the trolley, while sprinkling it all over, when it would have taken a gritter in his gritting vehicle like a minute to get it done, while it took us maybe up to an hour, as we had to come off sections to stop cars coming in on areas we worked on. Edit 2. If I see something that looks dangerous, I'll report it, and if it's something where I can't handle it myself, then I report to someone whose job it is to handle, which I did that day. I first asked DM if he can ask the gritter we passed if he could sprinkle some grit on the forecourt, because not only for customers driving in and out, but the tanker bay was super slippy too. As I also noticed when I went to test the phone in the emergency cabinet, I was stood there for a while and had to resort to crawling back into the garage. But sadly there's no cams that could have caught the side of my crawling. Good for you for standing up straight and sticking to what you said. The world needs more people like you. They were trying to get you to say something that would make you doubt yourself. That way they can blame it on you or another worker, or no one at all. If they still ask related questions, answer them the same way. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button to support the channel.